Okay.
We're live now.
Okay, call to order. Let's see, do you want to say the date?
Sure.
Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, for the Mendocino County Fish and Game Commission, call to order. Special meeting. Public expression?
It's special because we're all here. That's why it's special.
No public expression?
I don't see. Do we have any hands on Zoom?
Let's see.
Looks like just us.
Nope, that's it.
No,
No one present on Zoom currently. We'll keep it open just in case.
Okay.
that'd be good.
So we can see if
Yeah,
Camden.
if Camden pops in.
Mm-hmm.
Approval of minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes from the August 13th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed. Report, Commissioner Klein.
I think the only thing that I'll add put forward for my report is there was some discussion online about abalone season, and someone was saying because when they closed in 17, they said they were going to open in 26. I kind of doubt that that's the case. I was poking around on California Department of Fish and Wildlife's website. They had a report where they discussed how they were doing monitoring of the different species. And 2 abalone species are currently extinct, although they're seeing signs of some of the other ones that they thought were extinct coming back. So very interesting. They have these little baby abalone traps that they crawl in there. Anyway, so that was one of the things I was researching. Just wanted to share that with the group.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I heard the kelp is doing better. I'm not exactly sure, in the scope of things, how long that takes to actually.
Bounce back.
Now, the kelp doing better is beneficial to the abalone.
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see if we could talk to someone who's working on that at Fish and Wildlife, and maybe have them come and just give a one-off report.
Yeah, we used to have Josh Russo come, he was with the Watermen's Alliance and stuff. He did a lot of interacting with us as the commission.
Could they join us on Zoom? Because, I
Josh
think
could, yeah.
that would be really easy.
And he's come out with us, we've actually got him some grants, I think, or grants. I think one year, Patty, we remember we approved a $20,000 urchin
Yep.
removal grant over there
Yep.
at Russian Gold.
Yep.
I'm sure he would, bring us up to speed on what he knows. He's real knowledgeable and real eager to interact
Yeah.
with us, so. I have his contact number, I can reach out and see.
Yeah,
if he can-
I think that would be, we should know. I mean, we shouldn't have the public reaching out to us and, when we were previously engaged, to not know what the update is, so.
Right. Well, I think the other thing I'll add, just in the research I've been doing of other counties' commissions, I was looking at Lake County's agenda from one of their recent meetings, and they just had so many other agencies and stakeholders involved. Like they had a section for tribal reports, where tribal representatives could come. I'm not saying that every single one's going to come every time, but maybe we extend the invitation. They had a warden report. They had a biologist report. They had specific project reports. They had their agricultural commissioner gave a report, because in a lot of counties that it's housed under the ag department. So these are just things that I think would be great to see the commission move in a direction of and fostering those conversations.
Yeah, especially, agencies that are involved in the same things that are in our mission.
Mhm.
The RCD might be able to, attend a meeting once in a while, and they're involved with tribes, they're involved with, private landowners, forestry,
Yeah.
climate beneficial practices, fisheries.
Sure.
So
Yes, the other thing
maybe that'd be a good way to get in another board member too.
Yeah, I would just,
By having a broader reach.
Yeah, in fact, with the crab, we've got the inland at large too.
Okay.
I mean, the coastal at large, maybe,
Yeah.
I know there's some tribal activity going on over there with
Yeah.
different lands and stuff. We might be able to see if any of that group's interested in being a part of the commission.
the other thing I'll add is, this is just Lake County specific, but other commissions have much larger commissions with more appointees, and the Lake County has quite an extensive list of committee members, someone who represents education, someone who represents conservation, several who represent conservation in multiple ways, agriculture, there are 2 tribal government seats, then there are the district seats, and then they also have 2 non-voting members. Their agricultural commissioner is a non-voting member, and so is a supervising game warden, which I found to be interesting. So,
Yeah.
I would really like to see a little bit more participation from, Fish and Wildlife locally.
Yeah, we had them on our agenda, both Lieutenant White and Camden. I see, it looked like they dropped off our deal. I know Don, I had lunch with him here a while back, and he said they'd just been so busy, they're down on wardens, but now there's a academy getting ready to graduate, so they should be back up to speed, which would allow him more, administrative type duties. I think he's been out on the beat quite a bit.
I can reach out to the Resource Conservation District and the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which is the federal, sister agency. But I don't really have contacts anymore. There's Devin at the Farm Bureau, I do know her.
We've had meetings with the Farm Bureau before.
Yeah, exactly.
Meetings, so I think it's just more or less, if it's needed,
Right.
Not because everybody's schedules are busy,
Right.
type of deal.
Well, I will say I've talked with the Farm Bureau several times over the last couple months, and they still would really like to have conversations around elk population and elk management. Devin is stepping down, and they have a new executive director.
They do.
So that's just some notes for when we do outreach
Okay.
to them.
Do you know who the new executive director is?
Yeah, her name's Jasmine Randall,
Okay,
and should be very easy to get a hold of.
Good.
If we want to talk
Okay.
about it, so.
Thank
And
you.
that concludes my report.
Thank you. Joe?
Not too much to report. The Education and Demonstration Hatchery, which we also call the egg hatchery, is being cleaned out now. Basically, there's been nobody in there since May. So I can reassure you the amount of spider webs and mud daubers is extensive. So we're getting things cleaned out now, getting ready for the water to be turned on in November. And that'll require a lot more work to get done so that we can open up on January 2nd to the public. So that's where we are at this point. We're just getting underway, getting things ready.
When do you think would be a good time? I know we've talked about having a meeting down there, or, us visiting the hatchery. When would be the best time for the commission to come down? And
Well, actually, the best time, the most interesting time would be during the spawn.
What-
The only problem is right now, I don't know what day of the week it's going to be. California Department of Fish and Wildlife, for some reason, changes the days around. Last year it was Thursday, the year before that was Friday, and before that was Tuesday. So, once I have a day for the spawn, it happens once a week.
starting in about February?
Actually, it starts January 2nd.
Oh, it does?
Oh, wow.
So if it's Tuesday, it'll be the first Tuesday after January 2nd, we'll start spawning.
Wow.
We'll have fish coming up pretty much the whole month of December. Not a lot, but some coming up, enough for us to start spawning. When we start, we kind of roll into things. The first week, we will spawn 1 female and 2 males. The second week is 3 females and 6 males. We always do double the amount of males. So, the middle of the season, let's say maybe February or March, we'll be doing 14, 15 fish, females, and then double the amount of males. And then we start tapering back off towards the end of the year. So, starting in January, we'll probably spawn 1 fish that first week.
Once a
but
week?
the first week, once a week
Yeah.
is spawning. We do spawning every day, and we do the running of the trap every day, 7 days a week. So I would like to see the commission come down on a spawning day. I think you'd get more out of it.
That'd be a great
The
meeting.
thing is, the spawning is done in the mornings. We can postpone it for an hour or two, but that also depends upon if we have schools coming down.
So what time would that, not, at 10-ish?
Normally, I'm gonna say about 9 o'clock we get underway.
So you could push it out to 10 at the
I
latest?
could, yeah, if we don't have a bunch of classrooms coming down.
Yeah. I think it'd be good if we could invite, you know, like the Daily Journal down or something, you know, just to get these guys some recognition for what they're doing down there.
Great idea.
Maybe get some, generate a little bit of vibe, you know, and
Mhm.
help you guys out.
Even the Press Democrat, you know, might be
Do you have a
interested.
contact there?
I used to, I can check and
Fish
see if
around
she's
with-
still there.
Fish around.
Okay,
Okay, thanks,
especially if
Patty.
we have a date, so.
Yeah, will we have a meeting in February?
You will have a meeting in February. I can Google the calendar and see what day of week it is real quick.
And they have pretty
Sure.
robust hatchery practices down in Sonoma County, don't they?
In Warm Springs.
Warm
Right.
Springs,
Yeah,
yeah.
Warm Springs is actually like our mother to our
Right,
hatchery.
Yeah.
right.
So we fall under their auspices. And
Because
They
this
call
is
the
the Sonoma
shots for
County
us.
water?
Warm Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the lead act. And we're pretty much like a satellite or an annex of the Warm Springs hatchery. They have a lot of staff down there. Up here, it's 1 or 2 people,
Mhm.
and the rest is all volunteers.
Yeah.
And they also do, they also have salmon return in
Mhm.
Warm Springs. Not much.
Yeah.
But they get some salmon
They
return.
had a captive broodstock
Yeah.
program down there,
Mhm.
which actually they're starting to do something like that in the Navarro and the Garcia. They're taking fish out of the Garcia, and putting them into the Navarro, and out of the Navarro into the Garcia, because the genetics pool has gotten
The
so
same.
small
Yeah.
that they're trying to mix something that's similar to improve their survival.
That's one of the reasons why when we do the spawning, we use 2 males to every
Yeah.
female to widen the
The diversity.
spectrum.
Did you have a date for us on that?
Potentially looks like the second Tuesday is February 11th, 2025.
Great.
We can always firm that up closer to December also when you guys look at calendars for next year, but that's currently your proposed meeting date.
Okay.
And that is for what?
For spawn? That
The
would-
meeting?
Mhm.
To come to us,
Yeah.
February 11th? All right, let me check
We'll find
that.
out day of the week and then you can make
Let
your
me
special
see what
meeting.
we have in the line of schools coming down.
Okay.
I mean, it's okay if we have schools.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be a lot of kids there, but
Which is
we
good.
can't push the meeting back an hour.
Right.
That's the only drawback to that.
Well, 9 o'clock, that's,
I can do it.
I can too. Yeah, why don't we just say 9 o'clock so it doesn't create more confusion on
Fine.
your end, Joe?
Sounds
Who's
good.
bringing the coffee?
Well, we don't bring coffee, but we do bring donuts.
Okay,
So you bring the coffee, I'll
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
the donuts.
fair deal.
Okay, we'll skip over Tracy in case she decides to make it. Patty?
Yeah, so as I previously mentioned, I'm not leaving for Mexico for 2 months this year, so I will be leaving for some part of the winter, but not February 11th. And I have been reaching out to folks to see if we can find another coastal person. And I have not been super lucky in that department. I had lunch with Joe Scriven from the Reese Coast Conservation District, and he lives in Ukiah, but his family has a house on the coast, and he's an avid fisher, diver person. And if I can't find somebody on the coast in natural resources that is in my circle, maybe that's something we could consider. I don't know if we have an at-large person already identified, but Joe's local and he's really well-informed, and
We can always get him on a waiver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just has to do it.
yeah. So I will work on him a little more.
Good, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll work on, you know, with the, I think that's the Caddo tribes over there in that area, in the Westport. I
Yeah.
think they're the ones
Mhm.
doing some work up there.
Yeah.
That'd
I
be
know a few
great.
folks in that tribe, maybe they would wanna have
Yeah,
a
and Joe's been
representative.
working with Caddo,
Good,
I think it's called,
Caddo, yeah.
Caddo.
Cool, okay.
Okay, that's
That
it
it,
for
Patty?
me, yep.
Okay, only thing I have is talking to some of the hunters that were been hunting up in the Covelo area, and they were concerned about the deer numbers being down and just not seeing a whole lot of activity out there. I did get a report of some dead deer found, you know, not knowing what the cause was, the death was, so.
Mhm.
I reached out to Camden and talked to her a little bit about it, and she said if you get a report of something, you know, to let her know, and maybe she could go up and get some samples and
Yeah.
stuff and see what's
That's
going
good.
on. But
Good to know.
you have to be on it so quick
Yes.
because of the, you know,
Predators
the
and things like that,
predators
yeah.
and stuff, you know,
Buzzards
it doesn't
start-
take
yeah,
long, so, she's willing to work with us on that, so.
I know there have been a lot of diseases in our
Mhm.
deer stock.
Yeah. So I know that I think she spoke a little bit about that Wasting's disease, but it
yeah.
sounded like it was more in the southern part of the state.
I just was in Montana and Idaho, and I couldn't believe the size of the deer there.
Yeah.
They look like elk. They're huge, those whitetail.
Yeah, yeah,
And their tails are so long.
yeah.
I think Camden was the one, there was a mountain lion that killed a couple house cats and a sheep in Mendocino.
Hmm.
And I think she was the one who was dispatched out to look at it. So it'd be really interesting, I find that really interesting, the mountain lion population, to hear what they're seeing, where there are reported sightings and.
Seems like it's pretty healthy.
So were they
Yep.
trying to get a depredation permit, or is that?
I don't know what was specifically happening with that because it wasn't someone I knew. I just saw a thread where people were talking about it.
Oh,
and
I
they,
see.
They had called the local biologist and said it was a female. I'm like, oh, it must be Camden. So
Yeah.
it'd be great to have her come to our December meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Or have her zoom in.
Hi, Tommy.
Hello, how we doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
Hey,
Very
Tom,
well.
Hi.
Hi, I'll sit down here on the end of
Okay,
Make yourself at home.
that's all I had. So, on to number 5, items for discussion and possible action. 5A, continued discussion and possible action related to the red line of the Fish and Game Commission bylaws.
Alrighty. Here's the other page. So, at the request of the commission, I did a little bit of research into county code after the last meeting for some of the references. And I found a couple interesting items in the bylaws. The first is that code section is a complete typo. There is no county code related to membership at 2.04-050. It doesn't even exist. There is a 2.50 or 050, but it's not related in any way to procedure where the board could grant permission for absence to remove anyone. There's no sort of removal or vacancy percentage or anything in that code section. It's super short. I can read you the whole code section if you want. It
Sure.
simply states that the commission shall meet regularly every 2 months at such time and place as agreed upon by the commission, and such other special meetings shall be required from time to time. However, regular meetings shall rotate between the cities of Ukiah, Willits, and Fort Bragg. 4 members of the commission shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. No action or vote of the commission shall be valid unless approved by 4 members of the entire commission. So that's that whole reference that was erroneously typed backwards in your bylaws, which brings me to 3 things. The first is, we would not be able to do any changes to the bylaws without an ordinance amendment, red line, approved by county council through the board of supervisors, with bylaws that are redlined and approved by county council to the board of supervisors. We can always, at the pleasure of the commission, discuss how long that would take, and go above my head here and see how long that would take, because I would need to request approval to change projects. But that would involve the days, the locations, and the bylaws. So currently, as it states, the regular meetings shall rotate. That means we need to rotate December or February,
Mhm.
To
or
Willits or Fort Bragg.
Willits or Fort Bragg in the next couple of months, because it's not you may rotate. It states in county code and your bylaws that you shall.
Yeah, I know it was 2, 2, and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, 2 in Ukiah, 2 in
Yeah.
Fort Bragg, 2 in Willits.
So with the weather, I mean, you could say December and February Ukiah, or however you choose, and then rotate from there, but we'll need to hit all 3 cities each year.
Unless we can somehow work out our quarterly deal like we discussed, having 4 meetings a year.
Yeah.
I think the big concern I have is what, is the cost if we have to involve county council
yeah,
to redo all
exactly.
this stuff.
Yeah.
That's not gonna be cheap.
No.
And the other thing is, as long as that we have some flexibility into which months we rotate, I think that's still workable.
And I think that's the case for other commissions. I don't think that they're required to set a schedule.
Yeah.
So,
it can always be at the discretion of the commission, but with
Yeah.
that in mind, it'll be our standard bi-monthly meetings. Luckily, there's no time specified, so we have liberty at the time. It does state further inside your memberships and terms that it's the second Tuesday in the bylaws, so we will stay on the second Tuesday unless we need a special like this one.
Yeah.
We canceled for quorum and redid it, so we can still do special meetings. And what I would like to propose is we just hold the cleanup of the bylaws until we potentially pursue an ordinance amendment to make them match, because even if we change the bylaws to quarterly, it doesn't overrule county code. You're still bi-monthly and you're still traveling.
So how do we reach out, what county official do we reach out to talk about the changing of this? Is
Well, I
that
can
something
email
we can
county
look at
councul.
and see what how they feel about it?
Yeah, I'm just afraid
Give us
that
an estimate
Yeah,
of what it's gonna
exactly.
cost.
Yeah, maybe we
Uh,
better hold off on our grant cycle.
I wouldn't imagine that, but I would say that timeline-wise, this would be low on the priorities, and it would be
Yeah.
6 to 9 months before.
How critical
what
is it
happened.
that we change the bylaws? I mean, if it's not a high priority issue, it would seem that our priority should be more on outreach to our communities and
There you
serving
go.
our,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and then, and to work within whatever flexibility exists. Not that it's not good work that's been done, because I think that should we become flush with some giant fine or something,
Yeah,
we could then, at that point, when we have sufficient funds, move forward on something, and it's, you know, it's ready, pretty much ready to go.
so would you like to make a motion to table this until a later date?
What do I,
Commissioners that want comments too.
yeah, anybody else want to comment before we
I
do
do.
that?
Adrian, when was the last update to these bylaws?
Doesn't say officially. I know that they were written around 1947,
Oh my gosh.
but there's no ordinance amendments that I can see adopted. Portions of your membership were changed in 92, but the bylaws were not amended with the ordinance changes in 1992. So I don't know where historically these were proposed.
Okay, thank you.
So I move that we table this until we, such a time that we feel that we have the capacity to move forward.
In a second? Joe, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And I'll still reach out for a
Still
timeline.
thinking about it?
Well, yeah, I was just assessing
Mhm.
this whole thing. That's fine.
You can keep it open. You can, you already have a motion, a second. You can have further discussion before you formally call for the question. And then, like I said, I will reach out for a timeline. It has to be sponsored by county council. I can do all the edits and all the changes, but I can't get it on a board agenda without a county council approval on that document. Like I said, I can check the timeline and see.
Would
but
we
my
like to
guess
have
is months.
an estimate of what the cost would be before we move forward? Or backward?
I think
I
that's
think we
more
should.
important than
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll turn this off.
Okay. So should we just remove that motion and get a,
You can amend your
I
motion.
can amend my motion to getting an estimate and then at our next meeting,
Mhm.
table it till our next meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Does the second agree?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now you can do all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Perfect.
Maybe they'll just throw us a bone since it hasn't been done since 1948.
Yeah. Give us a break.
Yeah, come on, county council.
Okay, 5B, continued discussion and possible action related to the grant management documentation, including education, engagement, and outreach to participants. Guess we should acknowledge our guest, Tommy Thompson.
Well, this is our ad hoc. Joe?
Take it away.
Joe and I had the pleasure, it actually was fun, because we enjoy talking about all this, of reviewing our grant documents. Some of the things that we noted were just creating clarity and consistency and trying to make sure that there was ease of use throughout all. Oh, am I holding on to multiple of these? I am. Would you like one of these?
Sure.
Because I apparently have 3
Is this the
copies.
same?
There's
thing?
extras, yeah, they're separated by, there's 3 different handouts.
Okay.
Need this one?
There's-
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's what it is. Sorry, I thought I had all 3 in front of me. Not that it's
Need one
necessary.
more.
Sure. Thank you. So essentially, all that we did was look at neighboring counties, how they conduct their grant process, what their application looks like, the questions that they ask, etc. The language that they use to say, applicant versus grantee, etc. And we just made some slight edits to the agreement, the application, and then the guidelines. Pretty much everything was maintained for guidelines. I think if anything, I just simplified the language a little bit. We did change the requirement to, they have to submit a letter of recommendation, one. Some neighboring counties required 2 or 3, so we thought 1 was appropriate. I think that was one of the bigger changes.
Was the question on that, who would the recommendation be coming from, the person that's doing the job or the work?
It can't be coming from them since they're the ones submitting the application, so it'd have to be someone who has knowledge of their previous work.
Oh, I got you.
Like
Okay.
Fish and Wildlife, or, you
Somebody
know,
that can vouch for it.
Professor
Right,
Jones of the,
Someone who's worked with them.
I
Yeah,
got you.
Right. So, the other thing are the applications have questions that are a little bit more specific and just providing a little bit more space, so to give the expectation of, yes, we're asking you to give us a little more information.
more meat and potatoes.
More meat and potatoes.
Information is king.
Information is definitely king. Yeah, hopefully everyone had time to review the documents, and I'm happy to go line by line if that's requested, but I actually do think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Thank you. I did include the qualifying projects language in some of our other, just because I'm seeing it, I think that's something to point out. I included that in the guidelines because our previous guidelines said we'll provide you a list of the propagation fund code section. And so if there are changes that are made to that code section, obviously this would be mute and have to be updated. But I thought it would just be nice to try to package everything into one document. I also was very specific about wanting to use the same language on the top of everything, so everyone knows this is stuff that's produced by the commission. It's for X and it's funded by the propagation fund. So those were some of my pet
Is this
peeves.
the old one and this is the new one? I'm sorry, I don't think I received this.
Can you
Those are
look
both
at
the
that,
new.
that one I gave you?
They're both new?
Yeah,
Okay,
All three are
so,
they're
new.
different forms.
We went from 1 to 3 is what they've come
Okay.
up with, which is much better.
okay,
1 to 3.
So do we still use the
Basically,
grading
one agreement.
system like Patty, you and I were on a,
yeah,
Application.
at least twice I have done
yeah.
applications.
There's
We
still
didn't really
only there's still only one agreement. So I took all 3 documents that were existing and just updated all 3 documents. So there's the same number of documents.
So it's still,
So, I'm looking at number E on qualifying projects.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I happen to work in number E for many, many years, fish screens, I don't have any problem with that. Weirs and ladders, Fish and Wildlife usually does not approve those, especially if it's not them leading the project. So I'm just wondering if that might be sort of dated. The drainage, watershed improvements, gravel, rock removal or placement, construction of irrigation and water distribution systems, earthwork and grading. Those are like large projects now, and with equipment time at almost 200 plus an hour, I'm wondering whether those kinds of projects are ones that I think we're leading people to think that that is something that we would be interested in approving. And I don't actually think we have the technical expertise on our team right now to determine whether those are, they're gonna need permits and that kind of thing, so.
Well, Patty,
Yeah.
that's all specifically from the state code section that says
Okay.
propagation funds can
Can
fund
be
these
used for
projects.
this, okay.
Mhm.
So they're the ones who need to update theirs.
and we
Potentially.
have,
Yeah,
we have
potentially.
awarded some stuff, in the city of Fort Bragg for culvert and stuff.
Okay.
Different things,
Okay.
where the culvert directly affected.
Yeah.
Class
Okay.
A water course
Yeah.
or type one.
All right, well, I just sort of felt like, wow, that's big stuff there.
Well, and if the commission sees fit, we could produce our own qualifying project list.
Yeah.
That says we're only interested in funding, half of these, and
Yeah.
we're
Or
specified.
we could say prioritizing the A, B, and C, or
Yes,
D, E,
I
F.
personally would caution against that,
Me too.
and would refer to just say, hey, this is what the state sets,
Okay.
and then in our own deliberations, we can make those calls.
Okay,
I also think when we announce our grants, we're obviously going to state how much money is available.
Okay.
We're not going to say there's $300,000 up for grabs because we know that's not the case. It's going to be what, 50,000 if that, or whatever we discussed previously. So,
okay,
the other thing that I would like to note as we're putting forward these documents, as I was looking for a way to include hey, this is what it looks like for the commission.
Yeah,
Applications open in October. It takes us a couple months to go through them. We would like to get the awards out at this time, and then we disperse the funds at X date. But I did not want to put that in here and have it be set in stone and then have to edit it every time.
Right.
So my ask of the commission is that we include that language on the website,
mm-hmm,
just above where all these documents are housed. And we can all agree upon, hey, this is the schedule
Mhm.
that we're gonna set the cadence, so that people have the expectation, these are gonna open in the fall, we can go and apply for them.
would it be
Et cetera.
appropriate perhaps to put on our website the 3 projects I think that we did last time, that, they have reports, right? Have they all come in? I mean, to give people an idea of what we've funded in the past, because most grant solicitations include a link to what has been funded in the past.
Mhm.
I don't know whether we want to do that or not, but just a suggestion.
We do have those, I mean, Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have those posted on there. I went and clicked and looked at
We
what
do?
was, yeah,
Okay,
The submissions that went to the board are on there. I think Patty means
But
the
the-
completed
but the
reports.
completed reports, and I
Yeah.
know we've discussed in the past keeping an agenda item on here that's for our grants so that we can get updates. So you can say, hey, we still haven't gotten this one from this group, that kind of thing.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure they all came in. The last one I believe was a Word doc, and I can't remember if that was the deer. Because we just did all the final payouts August 31st, so every single grant
Okay.
has been completed,
Okay,
and they're all done. We would just need to be careful on final, for some of them are photos, and
Oh.
permission to release
yeah, for
people's
kids and
photos.
stuff, yeah.
Was
So-
that the deer enclosure at the Ridgewood Ranch that we
No, that one
funded?
came in first. That one was done first.
Okay.
And then we did the bear cans in the middle, and then there was the last one was the deer, right? California Deer Association?
Did we do something with him?
There's a ADA lake
Access. like
access or bathroom.
Hmm.
And I remember some photos on that one, but then he was gonna do a Word write-up, and I don't think I posted that Word write-up, but I sent it to CDFW.
Gotcha.
Shouldn't we be seeing them, like, shouldn't we be sent them, or it shouldn't be posted on our next agenda when we do receive the end of project reports?
We can add them to the agendas.
That's a good idea.
Do we want to, not that I mean, thank you for this work. I think this is
Yeah.
really, really, really
Very-
important.
Very good work.
Do we want to give like an idea of how much information we want to receive? Because a lot of times in an application, they'll tell you how many characters or how many words, like,
Mhm.
a range for an example, so that we can make sure that we get like sufficient information in order to make a good call.
Personally, I think that's part of why I spaced this the way,
Uh-huh.
we're kind of looking for a paragraph of information. And I didn't want to say, max 300 words or minimum 150 words, because I just find that to be a little bit nitpicky. And I fill out applications like this all the time, and it's just like, okay, I got to check this, and it just kind of seems a little redundant. Plus, when I'm doing reviews of scholarship applications, I'm looking for people who are actually putting the effort in.
Yeah.
So if you want the funding,
You're going to put the detail.
you're going to put the detail in.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I'm happy to include that. Of course, we can make these revisions if the commission sees fit, but that's just my personal take on the
Yeah.
characters and word caps. And then one of the questions you'll see says, feel free to attach, I think it's the budget question. If preferred, a spreadsheet may be attached with budget information, so they can break it down further in a spreadsheet.
Okay.
So. And there is a note on there, a reminder, copies of invoices should be kept, submitted with final project report, which is, that is the other change, apologies. The other change that we made, we noticed with some that they are required to turn everything in within 60 days of the project being complete, instead of a fiscal year deadline. So Adrian, do you have any opinion on that or comments from a staff perspective on that policy change?
60 days would be fine as long as it's prior to August. You have to say like August 30th. That is the fiscal year ends in June. We have 2 months to capture all expenses. If they missed that and submitted an invoice after August, they would not be paid their grant.
So
There's no way we could do it.
here's the other question. You say pay their grant, but the funds are
Reimbursed to a
supposed,
portion.
so the funds are supposed to be dispersed when they're awarded, correct?
That's a policy decision for the department partially with the audit findings. The department would prefer to do no more than 50% upfront of budget estimates to build down on.
Mm-hmm.
That comes from our senior program manager. I am not in charge of paying these portions.
Who is the senior program manager?
Jessica Byers is our senior program manager here.
Okay,
And she has the background of grants, and part of what we did for the audit is she worked on the fiscal procedures, which was not paying any grant funds up front,
right.
but
Well-
doing a portion.
Well, I was in the meeting, as you'll remember, and
Yeah.
you were as well, and I specifically asked the question of, does the department have a recommendation or requirement of how funds are dispersed? And he said no, that we could provide them up front.
That's correct.
And in discussion with individuals who applied for grants in the past, received them, and then others that would be interested, they expressed if we can't receive the funding up front, there's a likelihood that we can't even bother to go after the funds. So I just I wanna say I understand the department's position on this, but I am also conflicted because this isn't necessarily keeping our community's best interest at heart if it's gonna prohibit them from going after the grants. I'm also conflicted because I feel the department did not bring that information forward candidly to us in this process. And we found out kind of after this policy change instead of being informed of when it was about to happen.
All I can say is this is not something I can respond to. It'll need to go to the director and the assistant, because if there is an audit finding, it comes out of the county's general fund, and I don't believe the
Oh, I
CEO would
understand.
allow it. So that's not something that I can weigh in on at all. I can only tell you that the policy that was adopted from the last audit is we don't pay out up front.
And we used to, didn't we, Patty?
You did.
Yeah, we
What
have-
all
happens in the
grants.
event of a not-for-profit doesn't have the money
Yeah.
to start
Yep.
working on the
They
project?
provide a extremely detailed budget, was what the policy was written for grant disbursements. A detailed budget based on the staffing, the time, and they get a 50% payment up front before they begin work.
And then a
And then they
draw
can
after.
bill down as they go through.
Okay,
A lot more paperwork involved.
yeah,
That detailed budget should be provided in the application regardless of whether
Mm-hmm.
someone needs the 50% upfront, so.
Is there any discretion on the county staff to fully fund one or
I
not to
can't
fully
say.
fund it?
Unfortunately, it's not up to me. I can relay messages, but I am not fiscal team. That's payments and vendors and grants go
So-
beyond that.
Adrian, we've been talking about this disbursement versus, half payment or pay at the end for a year, at least that I've been on the commission, a year and a half. What has been communicated to that parts of the department? Has the message
To
been
the-
relayed?
To the senior program manager?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
She prefers no payment up front, actually at all, but is willing to do 50% with the complete budget and estimates.
I just want to quickly poll, just to make sure I'm not the only one who's concerned by this, just the impact of the community.
Yeah.
Are others conflicted by this or concerned? I just don't want to be the only one who's worried about this.
well, because of my organization, I'm concerned. Financially, we're in dire straits. There's a lot of good work that we do, there's a lot of good work that we can do. We just don't have the money, honey. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, I'm concerned about not being able to get the payments up front, to the
Yeah,
awardees, of the
Yeah.
grants.
The
'Cause
only thing that I-
technically, that's why they're asking for the money. They don't have it to build the
Exactly.
project.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Tony.
When does the county receive the funds for the commission, for the grants?
The
We already
funds
have
sit in the
them.
treasury, yeah. They're in the auditor's
they're
office.
there.
Okay, so
But they
they're
are-
already there,
Mhm.
so it's not like the county's advancing money that it doesn't have.
Correct.
So these are monies that are already in the county coffers, I assume gaining interest as it's sitting in the county coffers. So it would seem to be reasonable that, depending on the budget and how that funding came out for the grant request, that it be pursued that you get funding at that time, if that's appropriate. Depending on the grant. It could be a upfront project where we're gonna remove a culvert or do something like that, so you've gotta rent equipment, put it out there. So there's a cost incurred up front that would be reasonable with the budget, saying, okay, here's our timeline, here's what we're gonna do. So as a member of the public, I'd request that you pursue that as far as being able to change policy, because it is policy, you already have funds, it's a matter of disbursement.
Yeah,
Like I
but
said, I can do
don't-
the request, but with the change in the county auditor, it also requires 4 signatures now. So although it will come from our department, the last payment for the last grant was rejected and required an amendment with CDFW that we worked through for
Yeah,
the garbage
yeah,
cans.
Yeah,
And so that wasn't even stopped at our department, that went to the auditor's office, who does not authorize payments and now compares to the grant programs. So like I said, I will take notes and send it above those that are in charge of these policies. I have no say in the policies or how they're handled. I'm just the messenger to you through those people.
No, I
I
understand.
So
understand.
yeah, I will send that off to there and see. I believe it's gonna have to go fully to the auditor with the estimates. I don't know all of the auditor's new policies for cash handling and whether or not they will pay up front also.
I also just want to note that there were no other counties that have that practice of the 50% and then disperse, at least in my findings.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I did a conclusive all over California study, but I looked at several.
Yeah, I think it adds more stress to the project, for the project managers, if you will, meaning that, okay, we've got to rent this equipment, you know, is the county gonna be able to get this funding to us to cover our rental down at, you know, Hogue Equipment or something, you know?
Not to mention, or I'm sorry, really quickly,
Okay.
I know that we are risk adverse, I understand that concept, but there are several instances of defaulted loans and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're not even talking about $100,000 for a single grant cycle. We're talking about maybe $40,000-$50,000 of a hit financially. So where this falls in the totem pole of priorities,
So my
Right there,
concern,
Tommy was-
okay,
sorry.
You guys are.
Go ahead,
first.
Tommy.
The thought that I had is what requirements from the auditor would make their decision easier to know that they have an auditable path if there was an advance, to say that, okay, here's the steps. And if these are covered, then we could go ahead and make the advance or partial payment.
knowing the kind of the climate in Mendocino County, having lived there here and been in natural resources for many years, I believe that organizations that also have the capacity will be applying for this funding, like the Mendocino Land Trust and other organizations that have membership dues and have bequests and that sort of thing, will be applying for these funds rather than the kindergarten class and Miss Andrus's, for, Barron Park School or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think that for me, what has always been great is having the community sort of grassroots organizations apply to this grant opportunity. And if they have to pay all the costs up front, they aren't gonna be applying. They aren't gonna be able to apply.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is, which a lot of grants do, is they reward people who have the capacity and the money already,
Yep.
which is the wealthier tier in this county, to get access to these funds, which should be spread out more evenly.
This is a concern of equity.
Yeah.
And please feel free to include that specific term in this request, Adrian.
Will do.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I don't believe this is something we voted on as a commission. This was a county level decision to do this.
This was part of the audit, I
Yeah.
think.
It was a request in the audit to prepare policies, procedures.
And getting back to why we had the breakdown was that, our facilitator, our secretary left, and we had that gap of where we had no meetings, and we didn't have the ability to actually get on those people that didn't get the reports in, and it kind of triggered this atmosphere of mistrust of the commission, which I feel, was unfortunate, but the county had a stake in that as well.
Sure
So
they did, absolutely.
anyway, enough moaning and groaning. I actually support trying to figure out how we can get cash payments up front.
So I'll pose this question, with this potential change kind of unresolved, are we still comfortable rolling out our grant program, receiving applications and seeing if we can resolve it, if there is room to resolve it?
I kind of got a curveball on this, I didn't realize that was, I guess that's my fault for not reading through, doing due diligence and how the process was paid out, but this is kind of a shock to me that this is how it's being handled at this point.
It was not in
especially for the-
writing. It was mentioned, Adrian's been great at mentioning this to us, but the county, there was no actual official notification of this change.
How long do you figure before we can get an answer from the auditor?
I can't say for sure. I'll start with our fiscal team and see if they can reach out, and usually I hate to say it, but if about a month goes by or so, then we ask the directors to get in touch with the directors if we can't get answers. Through their unfortunately limited staff, and the authority relies with mostly one person. So
Would it help for us
We'll
to
have to
reach
see.
out as appointed commissioners to our board of supervisor and see if there's anything we don't, I don't wanna make any waves, but,
I don't know, we can start with the fiscal team here and see what they know
Okay.
from that standpoint of, whole vendor creation. I just don't know, I know there's a bunch of new policies, there's 4 different signatures for payments, I don't know how the grant will go, full payment versus 50%.
Randy, it's my personal opinion that I would encourage that we just communicate that to who we're appointed by, just so they're aware of what's happening.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So I guess the question is, how do we move forward with our grant cycle? Do we push forward and open it up, or do we wait to get clarification on this?
I think we're gonna have to wait, because it's, whatever we move forward on, if they change things the way they want it done, we've gotta go with it. I mean, we don't have a choice.
There may be some truth to that. We might not be able to change it, so.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and get some information from you on what they have to say.
Or the other way of looking at it is you can go ahead and accept your grants, but not award them until you have clarification, but you can see what's on the table
That's a good
coming
comment.
up.
I would be
then
comfortable with that,
Yeah.
with releasing the
point.
receiving them, and then that way we're not,
Mhm.
delaying it further and just taking them in, because we know it's gonna take a couple months to get through
And
everything
letting
anyways.
them know that they may have to lay out their money first
If it's
before they
not
get anything from the county.
Right.
upfront
I think it's only
request.
fair to make them go through the work and then not have the capacity to do it, should it be denied that they can't get upfront payment, or as a fallback, 50%. And also might have to scale, they might have to scale their projects back accordingly.
But if you put that in notification as the grants opened up and saying, okay, here's a
Yeah.
policy of the county that we may not be able to provide upfront,
Mhm.
et cetera, here's the conditions of receiving the grant.
Is that something you could type up and make part of the application process, is how this is
Well,
gonna
we're
flow?
gonna do a press release when it's opened anyway. We could add that into the press release as a forewarning, but we may wanna add it onto the main application.
I'd put it on the application so
Mhm.
people would be aware.
Put it on poll?
Mhm.
Can you make that amendment?
Easy. Easy to do that.
Okay, do we need a motion then, or are we good to go?
Well, here's just a, process question. If we take this off and make an edit, that it won't be approved by our commission, so we won't be able to release it until our next meeting. So can we make an edit right now?
Yeah.
No.
Live? Okay, that's all I'm,
Let's
As long
do
as
it.
everyone agrees to the edit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the changes in there, you can do it.
Yeah.
And then just, remember
Edit.
timeline wise, we can't submit to the board without CDFW approval. So that could take, last year it took me 60 days to get District 1 to respond. And I think,
About our grant cycle?
yes, someone had to call in a favor.
District 1 is in Reading, or is it in Yountville?
They only informed me that I was required to email askdistrict1@cdfw.
Okay,
And it took 60 days, and someone ended up calling in a favor, I can't remember who right now, but they actually had to call CDFW and say, hey, you've been holding, oh, it was Anna.
okay,
It was Anna. She said, you've been holding an email from staff for more than 60 days. And I forwarded my 2 emails starting in December after you had ranked the meeting, and then in January with no response. And then in February, when she called them, they finally emailed me all, just one sentence, all proposals are approved. So there could be as much as a 60-day delay from when you score to when I send all the proposals and the scoring sheets in the minute to CDFW to get their blessing before I can create an entire package for the board. So just anticipate February, March before the board meeting comes through. Early, and then funding is after the board approves it in March.
so we were gonna release it in November and then give them 2 months to work on it?
I thought we were gonna
December,
release it
I thought
January.
we were releasing it now.
now, like as soon as we approved it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're almost in November.
True.
That's true.
Adrian, just to get clarification, do all of the grants have to be approved by Fish and Wildlife? I thought it was only with under select.
They told me in the audit that any grant that goes forward is not allowed to be sent to the board without their blessing. They had to look at every single project.
Interesting.
And that no grants that we had previously done were valid because none of them had CDFW approval.
Oh.
It was a very interesting
It would be
audit.
nice to
Doesn't
have
seem right.
the grant person who, we could identify who that person is at District 1. and, you know, maybe invite them to,
A Zoom meeting or something?
or even a review of our grants.
Well, they've had staffing issues like the county, and so part of the
Yeah.
problem that we had with our, internal
Yeah.
audit was we went through 3 auditors, all 3 did it different, and all 3 provided different information and resources to the county on how to do these fish and game audits.
Oh,
And then so when I sent Ask Region 1 all of the applications last year, the first person that responded was not the person who did grants. The second person said, just do it. And the third person's name was Sean Fries. And he said he was the actual grants manager for the district. But he wasn't supposed to be working on it, and his boss told him just to handle it because it had taken so long. So he actually called me in person.
Oh.
So I've spoken to Sean, and I was on a Zoom call with him. So he does grant management in the area, but I'm unclear if he's the manager that would get it, or he stepped in because no one had responded to me.
would be
But we
good to,
could deal with Sean.
we could deal with Sean, and then he might refer us to somebody, and then we could, you know,
Mhm.
build a relationship.
Mhm. The trouble with anything else, especially even being the
Yeah.
forestry world, working on VMPs and
Yeah.
stuff, it's a swinging door.
Sure.
Nobody sticks at their job anymore,
That's the
I
big
mean,
No,
it's-
it's true, and they keep jumping from one agency to the other, and
They
then they
do.
get 2 pensions, one from the
Yeah,
state and one
you
from
gotta
the
start all
feds.
over, it's very costly to the landowner.
It is.
Because you
Yeah.
gotta bring the new people in,
Yeah.
it's getting done. Anyway, I'm off on it.
So
Side
really
deal.
quickly, Adrian, I just pulled up the audit findings, and the recommendation specifies that only certain uses are require department approval, and it's H, and H is what's called out in the code section. So it says recommends the county to contact the department's regional office to obtain such approvals going forward. Yes, but it's only for that specific subsection. It's not for all.
I can ask the auditor because I'm 99% sure he told me nothing was allowed without it. That's why we had to do it for all 3 last December.
Well, I'm just looking at I'm looking at the audit report language. And I know I'm sorry to keep asking to relive the audit, but if we could
I
just
can
get
ask,
clarification, because it says right here, it's only for H. The code section specifies H is the only one that needs department requirement. And if they've made some sort of policy change that's not updated to the code section, that's BS, and we know how these things work, so.
What is H, by the way?
Yeah, I guess.
H is predator control actions for the benefit of fish or wildlife following certification in writing by the department.
it's on this one.
Oh,
So
yeah.
our project, so the predator would have been the bear thing, right? And would it be the deer thing too, from last time?
I don't think the deer thing, but this one, the audit is specifically calling out the Sacramento pike and minnow abatement program.
Oh, I don't
Um,
think we even fund that.
Well,
I think we
this
did.
is
They
Yeah.
We
prior.
did?
Yeah.
It was prior.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
this is all audit findings. So I'm
Okay.
sorry because we're blurring like 7
Yeah.
different things in this conversation.
Formerly called squawfish.
that too. But yeah, that's just in the original
Okay.
21 audit, and maybe it was in another audit findings document that they made that
In one of
specification.
the 3, because we went through 3 different auditors, it's hard to say
Yeah.
which one changed what. But I'll
Yes.
ask Edmund because he was the most reliable and he was the senior.
Okay.
And he's the only one left.
Yeah,
The only auditor
The
left.
most recent.
Yes, he's the most
Okay.
recent. I'll ask him to confirm before, well, we're in the middle of the next grant cycle.
Yeah, that's,
But it's pretty typical in the world of grants to not get your funding for 6 months. You know, it's a pretty fast turnaround, actually. For some grants, it's more than a year. And it's the same old, not enough staff, they can't get to the projects and, get through all the different layers of review that have to happen.
Yeah, you look at the timeline, if we don't throw this out there in November, it could possibly fund it April or
Yeah.
May, June.
Yeah.
Some sort of funding, even if it's 50%,
Yeah.
the other thing that I thought might be good for us to discuss is when we were going through this, I was thinking about how we don't have the funds readily available that we've had in the past. We know that they're not levying as many fines. Our fund isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to put it out there for consideration. What if we move towards a model where we're only releasing the grant every other year and kind of stretching it out and making it almost a 2-year cycle? For one, consistency of our own funding, and 2, to allow the pressure to be released on the timeline of the funds being even expended by the grantees, because we know some of these projects last more than a year. So I have no opinion one way or the other, but I thought it'd be interesting to hear everyone's thoughts on that.
So like a 2-year rotation deal?
Yeah, and I wish we could do it every year because it'd be better to get more money out, but if we're really only looking at having $50,000, or whatever the, kind of small change it is,
So if we're doing it every 2 years, the whole sum will be greater.
Mhm.
Well,
Potentially, yeah.
as long as the fines still roll in.
And, yeah, I
Which we might
don't
be
have
looking
a
at.
problem with that. My only problem at this point is getting the money up front. That's our
that's
main
the
problem.
highlight. Yeah, and it doesn't say that anywhere in these documents, so I don't want anyone to think that we just made that edit. When I was thinking about how we're administrating this and the cycle and the dates, I thought maybe this is something we should consider, just to make this a more sustainable program. Because to me, making it accessible, sustainable, and long-term and consistent, those are all my priorities, and I think things that we've all agreed upon as priorities.
I think that would allow us to be a little more hands-on too with the grantees. I don't have a problem with it. I don't think, we don't need to state it anywhere, do we?
I would put it on the website because I want to
Yeah.
communicate what's happening, but it doesn't need to be on our, potentially on our guidelines unless that's something we feel is appropriate. Adrian, from a staff perspective, would you have any feelings on a 2-year cycle instead of a 1-year cycle?
No, it would be fine. Most of our grants are 2, 3, 4, 5
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
year cycles for funding.
Yeah.
We need to make a motion on that, or we just table for the next meeting for discussion? Or
I can make a motion. I mean,
to move it
it's
to a
not gonna hurt
2-year
anything.
cycle?
It's, yeah, it'll be a good reminder for us to have it in our minutes.
Yeah.
So I so move that we move to a, is it biannual? Or is it twice a year or every other year?
Every other.
Semi-annual, every other year. It's just,
You know, like you say, 2-year grant period.
yeah, 2-year grant
So
period.
that their grant application
Yeah.
wouldn't expire for
Yeah.
2 years.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
All right.
Okay. So, and what was our cap on that, 10,000 for the grants?
We didn't have a cap.
We
We
didn't have
didn't
a
The
cap.
last time. That was part of 5C, is we never actually firmed up what we wanted to release, I don't believe. I don't have a final,
Do we have a spreadsheet on what we've got in our fund?
Chair, do you want to approve our updated documents?
Yeah,
Do
go
you wanna
ahead.
call
we
for
should do that.
Sure, let's do. Can you read it off to us?
Yeah, I move to approve of the updated documents, the application, guideline, and grant agreement.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
And thanks again for the work.
I didn't
Over
realize you
you.
typed it up that quick.
Oh, what were we changing?
We were gonna add to the,
Just the notice that they may have to do 50% upfront.
yeah,
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, we'll just.
It may only be a 50%.
okay,
We're just gonna scribble that in the top of the application somewhere
Perfect.
here.
perfect.
You got it.
Change to 50%, potentially. Please be aware.
And we might be able to, that might not be an issue if we can get some sort of,
Answer before
Answer,
the end of
yeah.
December. But
you know,
it's a good
about full-
notice.
about full funding, yeah, good disclosure on the.
Yeah.
So 5C, continued discussion and possible action related to the opening Mendocino County Fish and Game Commission propagation grant cycle for the fiscal year 24-25.
So moved.
Not that simple. Okay, couple notes from staff perspective. We'll get the revised forms. We'll turn them around as Word docs to post online. We used to note the opening on, I think it was on the old application, but it was just typed in there and then we deleted off of there, so we'd make one each grant cycle. So we need to look at what day we officially want to launch and open it. And I mean, the press release can be after, because it'll take a few days to get the press release done and then to get CEO approval to actually release a press release. Will probably take me the rest of this week and into early next week to get on her calendar. But I mean, you can open the grant cycle before the press release and it'll just be on the website through your various sources that it's open, and then the county will send a press release out and tag Facebook
That's
pages,
fine.
et cetera.
I think the sooner the better, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And then they've typically been like 60 days,
November
so,
4,
well, I would think you could open it, I mean, you can open it
Halloween.
Friday or Monday, the 28th, whenever you think you want to have
You
those
don't need
documents done.
Any time on your end to,
It'll only take me like 10 minutes to fix the website and upload new forms. So we could do that anytime, then the press release comes later, and then, like I said, pick the 60-day. So if we want everything due, that would be like around December 28th-ish.
or do the holidays and everything?
Or you can extend it and have it due like,
Go do a 90
January.
day?
After the new year.
How about
I would say like January 2nd or something, because
Yeah.
you're gonna wanna call a special meeting. Yeah, somewhere in January.
Okay,
You'll wanna call, I would suggest a special meeting in January to score them. Cause I
Yeah,
don't think you
usually
wanna
we-
wait until your regular meeting.
usually we had an ad hoc group to do the scoring on that, but with so few of us, we could all just do it as.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're only gonna have 4 in January,
Yeah,
so you're all gonna have to do it anyway.
right,
You might as well just do a special meeting to score them.
Okay,
But
that sounds good.
if Joe's club is applying, then do you have to recuse yourself?
Yep.
So then
We'll have
it will
to,
have to be an ad hoc.
mhm.
or we
Yeah.
can hope that
Or we could just do the
Tracy's here.
meeting.
You don't need a quorum to do the scoring.
Mm-mm.
You just
No.
need to have live bodies.
For the
I just
scoring,
wouldn't
but
participate on that particular,
don't participate in the scoring, and then it'll just be.
of that grant.
Well, actually, I don't think you want to participate in the scoring of any of them because of,
Okay.
you have a bias.
Understood.
Yeah,
And then we can submit
Sorry,
to the
Joe.
board
Yeah.
that due to lack of quorum, the ad
Yeah.
hoc of 3.
Yeah.
Recommend approval.
cause I know Tracy did that one year with her whatever, that thing she
Yeah.
was working on, and she couldn't, we thought it would be best that she didn't be a part of the grading.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
appearances,
clean it that way.
regardless of what it
Exactly.
may be, it's just
Right.
appearances.
Right.
I don't have a problem doing nothing.
You were on the ad hoc for all this.
Yes,
so
that's right.
You
Yeah.
You get
You've
a,
done your
Look,
part.
plenty,
Okay.
Joe.
Okay. So what would you like to pick as your open date?
28th?
Sure.
is that Monday? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we'll say
Of
October
October.
28th, and then, is there a January calendar over there? No. All right, I think it only goes to December. Did they give us an extra month?
They did.
Woohoo! All right, so let's have them
The
do
3rd.
January 3rd since it's a
It's a
Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and then toward the holidays.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you. Toward the holidays, we're open December 26, 27, 30, 31, and then 2nd and 3rd. So I'll start polling you guys for a special meeting date, like a week or 2 before Christmas in case you're traveling. And then we can look in January at when you would like to score.
And we have a meeting in December anyway, don't we?
But it's before,
December, yeah.
they're scored. Or I'll
So
do.
can you, once the applications come in, can you forward each application as it comes in, or do you have to send a packet out? So we
No,
can
I can
stay
send it
ahead
to
of
you.
it?
I can
Okay.
send it to you as they come through. And that's another thing we should do in the press release. Do we want them either all digital or paper? Either is fine, but they need to be a complete submittal. Like, don't send me half electronically and half paper,
Yeah.
so I'm digging.
In the application or guidelines somewhere in there, I put that they could submit either online or in
In person.
or in
Mhm.
person. And I made sure like the phone numbers were the updated phone numbers
Yeah,
and
I saw that in
the
there.
commission, the general commission email and that kind of stuff. So,
Perfect. Okay, so then we'll get those. So yeah, if they're paper, I can scan and email them to you guys, and we'll save them into our meeting folders. And if they're digital, I can just forward them off to you as they come in. And then we'll make a special meeting date
To go over the hard copies.
to
ones that
go
are
over
available.
the ad hoc
Yeah,
in
And
January.
at that point, you won't be here.
I know.
that stinks.
have you got a
You'll get to see them
replacement
all.
you're gonna appoint?
Not yet. Legally, I'm not allowed to.
Oh,
You can't like promise anyone anything.
yeah, they have to put in the application and all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. So I just got to shelve that. Ideas for later.
Ask everybody on December 31st.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was all staff's comments, just to pick a hard opening date so I can work on your guys' press release this week and try and get it out. And then get the website modified with forms by October 28th.
Yeah, and I don't know, I know you've done a lot of work to the website and stuff, but I've gotten a lot of calls from people in the past saying, hey, look, we can't find this application. We can't navigate through, the county's website. There's no Fish and Game Commission. So we gotta go to the
Planning and building.
planning and building and all this stuff. So is there any, like a hot link or something that you could put?
I'll put one in the press release and I'll send you guys one because I don't remember where we moved it. We just redid our department website. I can't remember if it's under boards and commissions or public hearing bodies.
I think it's
Do you
under
remember?
boards and commissions.
Is it under boards and commissions?
But then you have to click to get to the actual
And then to
page.
fish and game, and then from there.
It's
Which
like
is-
3 clicks.
Which is the problem with the county website, is you have to click, 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 click.
Yes.
That's another story.
Yeah. But I will also, I'll have
Staff
our
understands.
website, I do, I hate clicking. I'll have our website manager post a news release for the first month, which will be most of November. That'll have like a hot button link on the top of the
Perfect.
planning and buildings
Good.
Excellent.
screen so that the grant cycle is open.
Yeah, if you could,
And then I'll
if the
send you
button
guys.
says, Fish and Game 24-25 or 24-25 application.
Grant
The
cycle,
grant cycle.
propagation grant cycle. Yeah, that'll be in the news release, and then once the website's live on the 28th with all the changes, I'll email everyone the link so you can forward it to anyone if they say,
Oh,
I
perfect.
Yeah.
can't find the
Great.
page. Bink.
Yeah.
Here's where all
Actually,
your
there's
Excellent.
there's some other groups that keep a rotating list of grants that are available.
I had a contact for this too. Actually, I have a small email contact group of like 3 people.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know when it opened
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
past couple of years, so I'll email those 3
Yeah,
people
good.
as it gets posted all actually.
And just to reiterate, for-profit and corporate applicants are not allowed, right?
I don't believe so.
Because I had MRC reach out to me about this. and-
That's what the MRC emailed me about.
Yeah. And I kind of said, no, I don't think so. I don't think we don't need a motion for this, do we?
I don't believe so.
No, this is just procedural.
It's procedural grant
Mhm.
cycle, it was just clarifying
Yeah.
information.
We're just
You
opening
gave
it.
staff, I'll just note staff has direction. Staff direction provided on how we're moving forward. And I'll send, I'll send blind copy everyone the press release and then
Okay.
just respond to me if you have any edits or more information needed.
Okay.
I'm just gonna we've never done a press release before that I have copies of. I mean, the secretaries may have that were
Mhm.
private, but
Yeah.
countywide, I don't have one, so I'm gonna make one up this week.
Yeah, I think back to the grant stuff, there was an issue we had with Dan Amberg before down there on that community he lives in, and it's on the south coast,
Mm-hmm.
regarding some fish habitat restoration they wanted to do in a gated community type park,
Uh-huh.
and we rejected it, and there was some heartburn about that. But
Yeah.
Basically, we had to explain to them that, look, this is not public access. You know,
Yeah.
These fundings are
Mhm.
Right.
public monies that go to
Right.
public projects. So
Yeah.
I don't know that MRC would be doing something that would allow public access.
Do we need to put any kind of notice about who is allowed to apply? Is that in there?
I don't remember seeing that.
I don't think so, but there wasn't one previously, and there wasn't one in all the other
Yeah.
applications that I reviewed, so.
I haven't seen one like that either.
I don't know that we've ever had anybody.
But does it say that anything about that this project should benefit public trust
There
resources?
is
Okay, good.
some writing in there on that.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
It has to be on,
I'm comfortable with that.
Into water, local, state, federal agencies, or onto land, into waters open, private, and public. There was one in the front about public education outreach.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's something I think we added, you and Patty and I worked on that.
Mhm.
You know, more, there was some of the grant monies were specifically ear tagged for, the schools and stuff like that, so. Do we have a budget report on I guess we're good with the.
Yeah.
Moving
Good.
forward on
Moving
this,
forward with that
number
one.
6?
You know, I do not have a current budget report from the end of fiscal to now. The fiscal team's been busy closing out all of the journal entries for the end of the year. We've had to go through August. But I will get you one for December. I doubt that very many fines or penalties have come in the new fiscal year. So I think I have the old
We're
one,
like at 100,000 or something.
160.
Yeah.
But we discussed only using a certain amount of it for
Mhm.
this grant cycle, and I just.
I thought it was
looked at my stuff.
75,000.
That's what I thought, we
That's what
threw
I thought
out
it
there,
was.
yeah, which isn't,
That's not bad.
It's
That's
like,
not bad.
it's
That's
like
pretty
half.
good.
yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with setting that number because I want to put it in
In
the
the,
press release.
Okay.
So what if, can we give a percentage of what we want to use for grants
Aha.
based on?
I
oh,
found it.
I did write it down.
Oh, good. I found
What
the old
was
budget
it?
cycle.
We agreed to put 30,000 in our reserve and leave us 80,000 to spend this year
That's
as
what-
grant
yeah.
cycle.
Hmm.
But
What do we
I'm
got
comfortable
there
with
on your spreadsheet?
75, whatever we,
End of the year balance to close out of last fiscal year, so this is at
If we had a
basically
range of
August,
75 to 80, then we would have some flexibility.
would be $109,000,
we could, I guess.
$109,033.84.
I'd say 109,000.
Yeah, basically 109,000. That accounted for all 3 last year's grants being paid out and all office expense and,
So that gives us
Communications insurance, blah, blah.
$50,000 to work with our budget with you and the county to maintain our,
well, we're 10,000.
well, that's right.
That's the maximum allowed in the
Yeah,
population.
right.
Yeah.
You're getting
So
a
the
deal,
most-
in
Yeah.
other words.
The
We
most
are.
the fund will be hit is 10,000 for all staff support. After that, the general fund picks us up.
So that would be 40,000 left at an 8, correct? If I'm doing my math right?
Roughly.
Or 70,000? If we award 70,000 for grants, or should we stick with the 80,000 that we discussed?
I think 70,000 is appropriate, because again, I think we're gonna see declining rates of
Yeah.
revenue, so I think 70,000 is appropriate. And what, we got 3 applications last time and we funded all 3,
Correct.
so 70,000 is enough for 3.
All right, 70,000 it is going on the press release.
Yeah, we're gonna apply for 2. 2 that are needed.
What type of monies are you guys looking at?
Well, we wanna do the Scorefish program again. And we wanna put a filtration system in the education egg hatchery.
Hmm.
The water that's coming out of the lake at this point is coming from the bottom of the lake, and it's
Sludgy, huh?
pretty dirty.
Pretty nasty stuff?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it'll help the
It
eggs to mature faster and better and healthier.
What's $15,000-$20,000?
I
We
would get
don't
into
know
dollar
yet.
amounts just because
Yeah.
you have a full commission right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Later, when if you do want to talk privately, but I wouldn't do
I
it in
got you.
public just for appearances.
Okay.
I mean, you already set the dollar amount, but just so nobody asks questions. Okay, so partial budget report. We know what we ended the year with. We set the dollar amount, and I'll have a revised one December 10th. Is that the Tuesday? All right.
Is that our next meeting? December
Looks to
10th?
be
looks like
December
10th,
10th.
if that's
The
December.
second Tuesday.
December 10th is our next meeting.
And we're gonna have
Correct.
it here in Ukiah?
It will be in Ukiah unless you so choose otherwise.
Okay. You guys like the 2 o'clock time or go back to the 4 o'clock time?
I have a class on Tuesdays at 2, but it doesn't really matter because if I have a meeting at 4 o'clock, doesn't matter.
Just the day.
Whatever works better for
Gets
everybody
dark
else.
early at that time of the year, so.
Yeah.
What
2
about for
o'clock?
you, Adrian?
Either's
Like it
fine
is?
for me. I can be here.
2's good for me.
What time good for you?
Well, no times on Tuesdays are good for me because I have a class, but it's okay, I'll just miss it once every other month. So I prefer 2.
Yeah.
Because I don't
I'm
have to
good
drive
with
home in the
2 also.
dark.
Yeah,
I like 2 o'clock personally, but I also wanna pose the question of, is it harder for potential guests to come?
Yeah.
Like, when we're trying to get Fish and Wildlife to participate, the biologist or anyone, even if they're just joining by Zoom, is it easier to, I'm trying to remember what Camden said.
I think it's easier for them to do it in the afternoon, you know, I mean, they're 4 o'clock, you know, and they wanna be home, you know, at 5 or whatever they're working on, but.
You could always poll them.
Yeah,
and see
Yeah.
if their
we can
preferences-
change it
we
to
don't-
4. We have
we
the
don't- yeah,
discretion.
There's no time in the bylaws. You just have to have it on the second Tuesday of the
Mhm.
month.
But if I'm
Mhm.
driving to Willits for a meeting and I'd like to get home before it gets pitch dark, 2 o'clock is better for me, just personally.
So we'll say tentatively 2 p.m., but you can always check with Fish and Wildlife or anyone that potentially may come to the meeting.
Mhm.
If Zoom is fine, then they can check in anytime. But if not,
Okay, so that, our Fish and Game,
the
Budget report.
regular scheduled meeting.
okay, does anybody have anything else?
You should probably do a public expression. Even though we did it earlier, we didn't actually close it in case.
Kwame, do you have anything to say?
Nope, just glad you're on meeting again.
Us too.
So I guess maybe as soon as we can if we could get clarification from the county on
I'll go email them
Payouts.
after this and see what we can do.
okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.